Now let's try practicing using properties of logarithms. So we're given that log base 2 of 3 is 1.585 and log base 2 of 7 equals 2.807. And we're going to use them to evaluate the following logarithms. So what we can do, just as a note, is that we can only use the numbers 3 and 7 to help us out in getting the number in here. Okay, so that's what our goal is to do. So we want to be able to rewrite it. Now, the only things we're allowed to do with this 3 and 7 is that we can only multiply them, we can divide them, and we can raise them to a power. Okay, those are the only 3 things that we can do. We can do a combination of them. So, for example, we can divide and raise them to a power, or raise them to a power and multiply, but we cannot add, we cannot subtract. Okay, so that's not allowed. No adding or subtracting the numbers, that does not work. It's not one of our properties. Our properties, again, are to multiply, divide, so it's these properties, multiplying, which is the product property here, and then the quotient property, and then the power property. Okay, so those are the only things we're allowed to do, and then we're going to use those properties, the adding, subtracting, and multiplying, in order to get them. Okay, so multiply, divide, raise them to a power. So what we want to do is see which operation is being used within the input. We would need to break apart factors if needed. So for example, we have 21. How can we make 21 with just the 3 and the 7? So I hope you see with that we can multiply 3 times 7, and that is 21. So we want to rewrite it first. So again, we can multiply it, and that's fine. So with the product property, that means that I can separate or expand these logarithms, and when I'm multiplying, that means I'm going to be able to add the logs together. So let's break it apart. This is log base 2 of 3 plus log base 2 of 7. So now that we did that, note that we do have these values here. So now that we broke it apart, we can substitute. Okay, so log base 2 of 3 is 1.585. And log base 2 of 7 up here is 2.807. So then you add them together, and we do that. You can do it with your calculator. You get 4.392. Okay, so this is how we're going to use properties of logs in order to evaluate our logarithms with numbers that we don't know how to calculate yet. Now we have log base 2 of 3 over 7. Again, we're only using 3 and 7, so this is pretty quick. We can see that we have 7 and 3. So because the numbers are direct, what does it mean when we're dividing? So when we're dividing these numbers, it means we can subtract. So that means let's rewrite it. Log base 2 of 3, the numerators first, minus log base 2 of 7. So again, we have log base 2 of 3 here and log base 2 of 7 here. So now we just substitute those values. We have 1.585 minus log base 2 of 7 is 2.807. Order matters, right? Because we're subtracting. And then so when you plug it in the calculator, you get negative 1.222. Okay, let's try letter C, log base 2 of 49. So there's 2 ways that we can do this to evaluate this logarithm. So we have method 1 and method 2. Log base 2 of 49, so what do we use? So obviously we're going to use log base 2 of 7. So one way to make 49 is we can say that it's log base 2 of 7 times 7. So if we're going to do that, so we're multiplying. So that means this is log base 2 of 7 plus log base 2 of 7. So remember, when you're multiplying, you can expand it by adding the logs. And then we substitute with what we have. So it's 2.807 plus 2.807. And when you add that together, you will get 5.614. Now, I hope you see that the second method, what you could do, is that you can do log base 2 of 7 squared, because 7 squared is 49, right? You're allowed to raise it to a power. So we can raise it to a second power, third power, fourth power, whatever we need in order to make the value that's in here. So with this property, remember what we do with the power is that we put it to the front and we're going to multiply. So this becomes 2 times log base 2 of 7. And so now we have 2 times that log base 2 of 7 was 2.807. And then so you get the same exact answer of 5.614. So here are the numbers that you can use. So now we're given log base 6 of 5 equals 0.898 up here at the top. And then you have a log base 6 of 8 is 1.161. So again, in order to make the values in here, you can only multiply these numbers, divide, or raise to powers in order to get the numbers here in the center. Okay, so try these out, see how you do with these, and then we come back, I'll have the answers for you. All right, so trying this out. So number 1, you have log base 6 of 5 divided by 8. So that means you need to subtract them. So we expand it. The 5, log base 6 of 5 minus log base 6 of 8. And then you substitute 0.898. And log base 6 of 8 is 1.161. And you get negative 0.263. To get log base 6 of 40, you can multiply 8 times 5 or 5 times 8, whichever way you want to do that. So log base 6 of 5 times 8. Then you expand it. So you're going to add the logs together, log base 6 of 5 plus log base 6 of 8, substitute, and you get this answer here. So just to reiterate again, is that you're not dividing these values, you're not adding these or multiplying these values, right? Where we have to expand it before we do it. So I should never see that you're dividing or multiplying these values right in here. Okay, so that isn't using the property correctly. For number 3, log base 6 is 64. So one way to do it is log base 6 of 8 squared, or log base 6 of 8 times 8, and you get 2.322. For number 4, log base 6 of 125. So again, we can only use 5. So 5 to the third power, and so then you get 3 times log base 6 of 5, and then here's this value here. And then the last one, so log base 6 of 25 over 64. So 25, you can do 5 squared over 64, which is 8 squared. So that's how you would get those values. And then to expand it, this is log base 6 of 5 squared minus log base 6 of 8 squared. So this is a layered problem. Then with the exponent, you move it to the front for both of them because they're the same. Then it's 2 times 0.898 minus 2 times 1.161. And then you get these values here. Your final answer is negative 0.526. Okay? And so just remember that, like with these values, you could, like if for example, you had like 6 and 2 as your values. If you had 6 divided by 2, like if the answer was log base 5 of 3 and you had 6 and 2, you could divide it. So what you would have to do is expand it. You would say log base 5 of 6 over 2 is 3. Then you could do log base 5 of 6 minus log base 5 of 2, and then substitute whatever given values they give you. Okay, so it was like one of the first examples on the homework. I think it's 12 and 4. And so that, just think about the ways that you can change the numbers a little bit, or manipulate the numbers a little bit so it fits. And not that you're manipulating, you're just remembering some of those properties here.